Good evening. I wanted to get on here, and I'm on here a little early. I'm waiting for Tony to join us. He's on his way home from the office, so just bear with us. We've got some stuff that we need to talk about, and so I'll let you guys kind of jump in here, and we're going to talk about some things that are changing when it comes to Measure 114, and we're just going to have to see how this all shakes out. And so, if you guys can hear me, please let me know. Like, comment. That's what gets this stuff out to people. And so, I'm going to kind of just let people kind of filter in, and we're going to talk as soon as Tony joins us. Then we'll put him in, and we'll kind of talk about some of the information that he's starting to see behind the scenes when it comes to what the state of Oregon is trying to do here. And so, thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate you guys. And so, that's it's so frustrating. Everything where we're thinking that we're making all these moves, and we're winning, and everything's looking good, and then they just stick a stick in our forks, of our bicycles, and but it's what they do. It's because they're desperate, and so we just have to know that this is part of this process. It's not a fun part of this process, but this is. I got somebody from YouTube. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. And so, that's kind of where I'm at. So, on my end, so I did some stuff to kind of help this process, because we're obviously fundraising is a big thing now, and so I've kind of taken a role in this, to kind of help put my network together to kind of help this process. And so I had some really good meetings today, and helped kind of lay the groundwork to get some funding from bigger orgs across the country. And so that was huge, and it worked out in our favor. And so, that's, hey Mario. And so that's so I got some victories there. And so I'm going to celebrate that victory, and hopefully that's going to get us the funding that we need. Hey Stacy, thanks for tuning in. Sorry I couldn't get back to you. I've just, my phone's been blowing up. It's been a crazy day, and as you, I'm sure, know, because you have a family. And so, we're just kind of waiting for him to jump on. As soon as he jumps on, we'll kind of talk about the day, and kind of where we're at, what we're looking at. And so, looking for the fundraising. I did look. I think we're at close to $3,000, which, it's a start, but we just got to realize that, this is something that it's going to cost us money if we're going to stay in this fight. And we can't rely on other orgs to do the work, and luckily I was able to hopefully start the process where we can get some help. But until then, we're going to be on our own, so we're going to have to self-fund this. And so, part of this stuff is it's not fun, and so I had some really good meetings. Before I get here, I will talk about this. So I went and saw my friends with Minuteman Ammunition. So they gave me some cans of whoop ass. So these guys are out of Vancouver, Washington, and so they make their custom ammunition, and so they have all these different flavors, and it's actually canned ammunition. It's really cool. So the cream of whoop ass, this stuff is 357, right? And they have the Parabellum mushroom, which is my favorite, the 9mm there. And then I got a kind of a smorgasbord, right? And so this is my blackout beans, right? Because I love the 300 blackout, so really, really cool. So Sporting Systems in Vancouver, Washington, they have an ammo plant, and so they make this custom ammunition. And so this is, really good quality brass, quality powders. If you guys are ever looking for ammunition, check them out. And so I just want to kind of bring that up because I was kind of excited about the fact that I was able to bring home some cool parting gifts, right? So we have some stuff for coyotes. This is 5.56, so 2,700 feet per second, and good stuff. So you guys are looking for ammo, you guys can check them out. And so once Anthony jumps on here, we'll talk about the day's news. And so one thing we're going to try to be careful with is this. A lot of this stuff is, we got to be careful. We got to keep our cards close to our chests, because we don't want to give out too much information, because we don't know, who's watching in the group. And so, we're going to kind of talk too much specifics, but we want to kind of kind of show you kind of things that we need to be aware of, and what, if things go south, this is how they can go south for us really quickly. And so that's kind of where I'm at. Is, the whole point of doing this tonight was just to kind of, get the information out, kind of talk about the things that are happening. And a lot of this stuff is he's learning this stuff as he deals with the state of Oregon. And so he did get notification, I believe, from today. And some of the stuff I'll let him speak to it. I don't want to speak too much, but I'm glad you guys are here. And so as soon as he gets here, he should be here any second. We'll get him in here and we'll kind of talk about things. And that's kind of where I'm at. So, how was your day? I hope everybody's doing well. Just know, with what we talk about tonight, what the state of Oregon could try to do really could upend things for us, and so there's just things that we have to pay attention to, and know that, they are trying everything that they can to make some drastic changes to our lives. And that's kind of where I'm at. Hey, senior. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. So good seeing you. Good talking to you just a little bit ago. So, just waiting for Tony to get home, and we'll talk about, things that he's working on. And so that's kind of where I'm at. So if you guys got things to talk about until then, I just want to make sure everybody was here. So I always start on time, as you know. And so we're just kind of waiting for our guests to get here. And so we'll, I'm hoping thinking we have, hey, Tess, hey, how we doing? So we got both the parents here. And so we're just waiting for the guest of honor to show up. No pressure. And, I'm sure he's had a busy day, Lori Ring. And so, it's been a day. And so let's hoping that we can keep this momentum going. And so, thanks for tuning in. Hey, Jim. And thanks for tuning in, Jim. I appreciate it. And so, you know, um, the fundraising, let's talk about that. So the fundraising, where this is out. So I haven't checked lately, but I think we were at close to $3,000. Okay. And so what that was, is that was going to, this is all self-funding. Hey, Justin, I hope you're doing well, man. I haven't talked to you in forever. How's it going, dude? And so, hey, Darren, thank you for tuning in. And so, we're trying to self-fund this just because there is going to be kind of a gap in funding until we can get the bigger organizations up to speed. And so, that's where this big focus is we're going to lose this if we don't come through and self-fund this. And so, you'll see, kind of a I don't want to say that I'm scared, but you'll see action out of me tonight. And we'll talk about, hey, Eric, thanks for tuning in. And, the whole point is it doesn't take a lot. It takes, literally, if we 77,000 in the group, there's another group that we're broadcasting it to as 13,000 in there. So, I mean, literally we can do $10 a piece and we can meet that goal. And so that's kind of where we're at. And so, hi, Lonnie. In short, what happened? Yes. And so Stacy, please be patient. And the reason I say that is because I'm going to let Tony, because I know what I want to say, but I don't know what I should say, if that makes sense. So I'm going to let him, as soon as he gets here, which I sent him a text, he should be here any second, and we'll talk about it. I apologize for keeping people, keep taking your time. That's not what I was trying to do. I was just trying to make sure that we were all here to set times and we can talk about what's happening. And so, I want to be careful. Yeah, no. And I appreciate it. It's a lot, and it's a lot to, kind of, and I hate keeping information from you guys. I try very, very hard to be an open book and be somebody that you guys can trust with information. Be somebody that if you have a message, you can send me a message, because if you have a question, oh, here he is right here. Awesome. Give me 1 second. He's here. I'm going to add him on. Hey,
Hi
you're
there.
Can you everybody hear us? Make sure we have a sound check. He's here in the house. Okay. So yeah, Todd, whatever you can do. So welcome. So everybody can hear. And uh so welcome, Tony. Thank you for joining us. I want to appreciate you coming on. Yeah, I'm sure you had a long day. And so I kind of briefed them, kind of where we're at when it came to the funding, like how we're trying to self-fund this. And I'm trying to be I want to give them information, but I also want to be kind of vague because I don't want to give away game plans. And so, that's why I would prefer kind of tell us what your gut's telling you right now, and kind of fill us in.
So, as far as what's next?
Yes.
All right. So yesterday I got an email from the appellate division. So that's the folks at DOJ that handle appellate cases, and they wanted to confirm that I will be counsel for the appeal. And so the best interpretation of that is they're just getting ready to file the notice of appeal, and that's that. On the other hand, state has been filled with shenanigans in this case. Motion after motion denied. A lot of them were at trial and weren't really prominently seen, but they were talked about at trial. And so there's a couple different things that could happen. At the ORCP 62 hearing, so that's the last hearing we had on the objections to the findings of fact, they moved for stay of judgment. So basically, they asked the judge to take everything he just decided and put it on pause. That did not happen. Now, they are allowed to ask the Court of Appeals the same thing. So I just did this myself in another case, and shenanigans and tomfoolery. So I just did this myself in another case. You guys might have heard about the Multnomah County tobacco ban, and that's what I did. So first I went to the trial court. Trial court said, no, I just ruled against you. I'm not going to press pause. Then you can go to the Court of Appeals. So there's a chance they could do that. There's a chance they could move for another writ of mandamus. I think that's less likely. There's a chance that they could try to accelerate the briefing schedule for in the Court of Appeals, because where they're at is they think that they've got a happy ending in the Oregon Supreme Court, and they're trying to hurry to the Oregon Supreme Court. And so, trial court, we're creating the record that we're going to be married to for the rest of the appellate process, and that's what they're going to try to do. The other thing I see potentially happening is that there could be something done in the legislature. If that happens and it is a repeal of 114 and redo of it, that would kind of take us back to the beginning. It would also, like Senate Bill, Derek, correct me, it was 348, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that was the Measure 114 fix
on steroids.
Yeah. They could try to include, like they did in that bill, a venue selection clause. So, hey, if you want to sue on this, you got to do so in Marion County. It was patently obvious that the attorneys and their bosses lamented having to drive across the Cascade Mountains to Judge Rashio's courtroom. I don't know why the people of Marion County have a greater say in the judges that are going to decide these important constitutional issues, but yeah, the state sometimes thinks they do. So,
that's kind of home field advantage for DOJ. And the way we can look at this is the courts in Marion County, they get direct funding from the Oregon legislature, so they could have earmarked projects where they're not going to say they're going to be paying these judges, but there could be some special thing to the building or some extra staffing that they could add there that could be magically funded through the legislature as kind of a thank you for taking on this any kind of challenges to either what kind of
You
bill.
know, maybe, but more so than that, I think that what happens is the judges are selected from amongst by a voter pool, and
Mm-hmm.
Marion County is to the left of Harney County. And so they think that they've got a better chance with a judge who was elected by people who believe a little bit more closely. Now, they'd love to try this in Multnomah County. They would love it. That's their dream. That's not going to happen. So they can't justify that. What they can justify is, well, let's go to the capital. Not that all of Salem is in Marion County, as I sit here in West Salem, which is a part of Salem and is part of the capital and is in Polk County. So, maybe we try this in Polk County then, if that's the justification. But, so the kind of getting back to the budget here and the concerns about self-funding, we've built into that kind of a plan of there might be shenanigans. I've got more shenanigans I think they could pull out of their hat. I don't want to share all those publicly yet. Right now, I'll keep it at what they've already done, being writs of mandamus, and what Harry Wilson brought out ORS 19.350 at the ORCP 62 hearing. I think it's unlikely they do that for a few reasons. If they do, we'll see what happens, because I've got good counter arguments to that I think defeat it. But so we've planned out for some of that, and so that's kind of where I see us going next. I think right now is one of those times where we need fuel for the fire. The way they litigated the trial court case was brutal. We didn't spend a tenth of what they did, but there's stuff perhaps I might have wanted to do differently were dollars infinite, but I think we did a good job. I think coming in always the underdog against the state, always. And we did a good job and created a good record. And that's the biggest thing I've heard is some people kind of being defeatist and going, all right, well, we're off to the Court of Appeals. We're off to the Oregon Supreme Court. Now we're going to lose. And we could, but we have such a good factual record. The law is on our side. The facts are on our side. Politics aren't. And so as long as the same test is applied by the Oregon Supreme Court, there's no reason why we shouldn't win this case. Now, if they switch the test or if they get creative, there's nothing you can do to stop that. There's a lot of court rulings over the last 200 plus years that didn't go with what we would probably say is the letter of the law. But I believe very strongly in this case. I think this case is likely to proceed, likely to succeed, and I'm confident in it.
Yeah, and I feel. I mean, you got to hold your head high. What you did, what you accomplished, you and Tyler, was it was definitely a David versus Goliath situation. And Brad Laurie just tuned in, and so he has a really great point. There is. Will Lathrop, I still need to get a hold of him to figure out how we can help him. He's running against a guy that's already in the Oregon legislature for the attorney general. And this is the guy we have to get elected. And so, we have some things that we have to do this year. And so whatever we can do as this collective group, we need to do it. And part of it is we got to fund this. It doesn't take a lot. right? You remember the Suzanne Summers where they're like, for less than the cost of a cup of
Yep.
coffee. I don't want to I don't want to be that guy, but
Right.
I feel like in this situation we gotta protect the house, and we protect the house by making sure that we have the resources that we need. And so this is a huge thing that we're trying to take on, where we're trying to help a guy get an AG position, but we also have to protect the ground that we just took.
Yeah.
And so they're not happy about that. We look at the messaging. They're not happy the fact that they continue to lose, and they got a chip on their shoulder, and they know that they have the resources. And what they don't have is they don't have the Constitution on their side. And so and they don't have a good judge's ruling on their side. So
Yeah.
there's things that we have in our favor, and we should be celebrating, those little things, but we also can't be complacent. And I feel that what we've done for so long here in Oregon is we've become apathetic and complacent, because we always think that this will never happen to us, or somebody else is going to do the work for us. And I'm not trying to speak negative here, but we're busy, and this is
Yeah.
new, and we're not used to this process. There's other states that are far advanced over us because they have networks, they have groups, and so part of this is definitely a grassroots, and so that's where I'm trying to help you make sure that you have everything that you need so you can continue to do what you're doing, and so yeah, this is a really important comment right here. Is like we have to hit the accelerator, you know what I mean? And I know it's not easy for people right now because the economy's not great here in Oregon. I know there's a lot of people that are struggling, but it's you know we got to make some sacrifices if we're gonna, and it doesn't take a lot if we have it in mass, and so that's kind of been my biggest thing the last couple of days, is just seeing a slow trickle. It's trickling,
It sure.
but
Yeah.
at a couple $100 an hour, that can evaporate really quickly. So
yeah, well, I want to get to attorney's fees really quick, because we'll most likely have one more hearing in Harney County. That'll also likely be remote. It will be filed very soon. It's not a secret. It's in the complaint that we're going to do it. So if anybody, on their end is surprised, then I guess I showed my hand a year ago. But we are going to be moving to get attorney's fees. So the justification for that is under the court's inherent authority to do so. And there's a good body of case law. Some of it was developed by my boss, Tyler Smith. But it's attorney's fees are grantable under what's called the constitutional theory. So the constitutional theory says, and this does go back to kind of our pitch for pitching in, I guess. But the constitutional theory says that it is unfair for one litigant or two litigants, such as my clients, to bear the costs of litigation that benefits the entire state. One, through the correct application of the law, and also the preservation of an important constitutional right. So basically, if we want attorney's fees, those would be paid out of tax dollars, because that's the only way the government has money. And
so we're getting double taxed.
Yeah. My bill is a lot smaller than Markowitz Herbold, I promise you that. But
no, I know.
So that's the idea. Is if somebody protects an important constitutional right, then they shouldn't by themselves bear the cost of doing so. So let's take that back to what we're doing by seeking help from the people of the state of Oregon. If you have a 10-round magazine, you benefited from this litigation. I did. I know Derek did. If you've purchased a gun since December 8th, 2022, you benefited from this litigation. And if you plan on ever purchasing a firearm in this state ever again, or leaving the house with your 10-round magazine, or anything like that, anything that was affected by this case, you benefited from the case. I benefited from the case just as all you need is one 10-round magazine and you benefited from the case. And so the idea here was, hey, let's reach out to the people who benefited from the case. We're also talking to other gun rights organizations and things like that to try to get some help. But the big problem with a lot of the national groups is, well, they want to bring stuff under the Second Amendment, right? Because they want, if they're going to, they want their dollar to affect all 50 states, which is smart. The simple fact of the matter is the federal cases, which I think will win out in the long run, did not win out at trial court, at trial. And so the question is, how long until that case works out? And but for this state court case, we would have all already been living under the tyranny of ballot measure 114 for over 13 months now. And so, that was kind of our pitch, is let's go to the people who benefited and let's try to get some help. And we're up against quite a battle. If I would have guessed the budget for trial, it would have been, but before the case started, I would have guessed lower. But we had to go to the Supreme Court twice in the middle of the trial court stuff, and that was a lot of it. We're blessed with a lot of volunteer witnesses giving up their time, blessed with and their knowledge, blessed with a ton in this case. We're blessed all the way around, and so we're just hoping that can continue to this next phase, and basically that we don't fall into the trap of thinking, well, this is going to stand. They could file, the state could file a motion tomorrow that would put the court's decision in jeopardy. And so we have to always be on the defensive. We can't just we're defending a ruling now. We're not bringing a case, if that makes sense. We won our case. Now we're defending a ruling, and so our position changes. We still have to respond to everything they file, and so yeah, there's a lot coming down the pike. I don't expect to stop working on this for more than a few days at a time until briefing schedule is set.
Okay. Then do you have any timeline for that?
So they have 30 days from yesterday. 30 days from the day before yesterday. I'm sorry, I was traveling, and
it was the day before yesterday. Was filed.
Yesterday was when the judgment was signed. So they have 30 days from then to file their notice of appeal. I think they'll do so fairly quickly. When they do so, there's a long period of time where a transcript's generated. I don't know how quick Harney County is compared to Multnomah County or Washington County, where I've had appeals out of before. Multnomah County's still working on ours, and golly, I think that case wrapped up in October. It was right before trial, August. So they've been working on it for a while. Harney County might be quicker, they might be slower. I'm not sure, but I would guess, maybe 90 days until we get the transcripts.
Okay. And so do you feel comfortable talking about kind of what we talked about earlier, like worst case scenario, or you want to keep that close?
Worst case scenario.
I'm kind of being cryptic, like what the state's going to try to do. And
oh no, yeah, I mean, I think I kind of covered that. So I think that they could move for a stay of judgment.
Okay.
They already moved for that once at the trial court, and it was denied. That was at the 62 hearing. They could petition for a writ of mandamus. They could move for a stay of enforcement of the basically the ruling, and try to basically have the Court of Appeals say, we're going to err on the side of taking away people's rights. the trial court could be right, could be wrong, but we're going to err on the side of the trial court's wrong. That would be really weird for them to do that. We've got arguments ready for if they do that. I don't think they petition for mandamus again, but they could. They could try to go straight to the Oregon Supreme Court. I don't think that's likely. I think this will follow the normal Court of Appeals, then to the Oregon Supreme Court schedule. They could try to speed it up, ask for accelerated briefing. Golly, what else could I mean? They can do a lot of stuff. They can do something in the legislature.
Yeah, I mean, what you told me, and obviously some of the guys are not going to understand the mandamus and everything like that, but in layman's terms, they could try to get this thing implemented through some kind of fiat.
Yeah, so basically moving for a stay of judgment or a stay of enforcement is where they would tell the Court of Appeals that you should allow this to be implemented while we deal with the appeal.
And so I don't want to scare anybody here. I just want you guys to be aware of what potentially could happen, and that's why everything that we're talking about, the funding aspect of this, is a really important component to this. Is we got to have that coffer there and filled, so if they do pull this kind of stuff, we can push back on that. That's where I wanted to go with the video today, is just to kind of a sense of urgency.
Definitely a sense of urgency. We want to know. It's Tyler and I right now. Yep. We have staff, but it's Tyler and I, and we've got a lot of clients, and this case has taken most of my time in 2023. Maybe not a majority, but definitely the case I worked on the most in 2023. Obviously the 6-day trial. I mean, the amount of prep that went into that was hundreds of hours. I don't have the total number in my head, but it was north of 600, if I remember correctly, hours just dedicated to this case. And that's a lot of time. And so for a business to put out that time, it's just hard to have one attorney basically dedicating a third to a half of their docket to one case if the attorney's fees aren't being paid. And I am optimistic that we win out in the end on this case. I'm very optimistic with that, but waiting potentially 3-4 years to get paid is just going to be a tough thing for the firm. And so, my boss has been endlessly supportive of this case, obviously, me, obviously. But, we've got to pay the bills and all that as well, and got to pay me. So, so attorney's fees are really important in a case like this. They're the fuel for the fire.
This is a really good question. And so one of the, in my meeting today that I had up north, there's a lot of what's happening in Washington. They have a permit to purchase process that went into effect already. Some of the things that they're dealing with in the legislature up there, they have every FFL is required to have X amount of storage for their firearms at all times, also data backups. And he was my partner was telling me, how much it was going to cost and how many terabytes. He said it was 30 billion terabytes that they estimated that the state of Washington, all their FFLs would have to come up with just to, house all the videos that are stored. That's going to come here. It's going to come across the state line. And, so there was a really good question here about other states. And so with the permit to purchase, the context, the orgs that we're trying to get involved here, they do have a vested interest in seeing this thing go away because of this would affect Washington. You know, Maryland was already struck down, but there's other states. Hawaii's got issues as well. I mean, so there's other states that would benefit from us, you know, winning here in the appeals. And so that's why I feel that, you know, it's just going to, it's not typical for what they do, but I feel that it could be a victory for them, which would help us, you know, and so I'm just going to, hopefully it goes the way we need it.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know if Washington State has a constitutional right to bear arms other than the Second Amendment. I know California doesn't. I'm pretty sure Hawaii doesn't.
Nope.
But you know, to the extent, like for instance, Oregon's right to bear arms, Article 1, Section 27, was taken heavily from other states. I believe one of them was Indiana. Been a while since I looked at that, and so it would be somewhat informative for those states. A big thing. So will it be binding on Washington? No, because Washington's got its own set of laws, distinct from Oregon. But I'll tell you the biggest thing for this, for me, and why I like that this case is under the state constitution is because we, as Oregonians, we have a right to know whether our constitution means anything. And if it does, then great. And if it doesn't, then we need to change it. And there are things we can do to change it, like our own ballot measure, to amend Article 1, Section 27 and fix it. If it's too vague, we can be more specific, I promise you. And so, you know, we can say, in no case ever shall, and spell it out to them like they're 6 years old. But, you know, we deserve to know that, and it's something that protects us from our state government.
Yeah.
How could they possibly put it into play without the mechanisms in place? Sorry, I can't see your name. Exactly. And they've been trying to do it the entire time. We had Brian Marshall, the attorney for the other counsel, or the attorney for the other side, arguing that that it should go into place, that the permit to purchase should go into place when it was known that the FBI would not run background checks. And that's, you know, I don't blame Brian Marshall. He's an attorney. A.G. Rosenblum is his boss, and A.G. Rosenblum wanted ballot measure 114 to go into place when they could not process background checks, which meant that A.G. Rosenblum wanted to prevent everybody who bought the gun post December 8th, 2022 to be unable to do so because they can't get the permit. They had no good faith intention of getting this thing into place really quickly. They're going to drag their heels and complain and say, oh, well, we can't do it until the legislature has funding. The only reason why anybody who's bought a gun in the last year was able to do so is because of a court decision that put it on pause. That's the only reason. Otherwise, we'd still be sitting here twiddling our thumbs. You know, sorry, Derek, going off here a little bit, but
no.
The other side argued about implementation. They asked the judge, can we take steps to implement ballot measure 114, even though we lost this case? You haven't implemented it yet?
Why not?
You're arguing that you
Why not?
win, and you don't have the proceed. What is left to implement 13 months later? That's what I wanted to. That's the question I wanted an answer to at that hearing.
Damn, that would have been sweet to get it on the record. Oh, and all of us said, hey, let's go down there. Like, we have Brad in the comments here saying that as a sheriff of one of the smallest counties in Oregon, like, you know, it's impossible for him to implement. Absolutely. You know, in reality, and Chris White was the one that had that question for you. In reality, they're okay with the 30 days that it says, which is going to lead to 6 to 8 months to indefinite because they don't have anything in place. They're okay with that delayed right because, and that's denied. It's not a denial of our rights, you know? And so I'm
Derek,
glad that
not
you.
only is it 30 days, it's 30 days, and then you get to hire an attorney to file an action in circuit court and ask the judge for permission to exercise your constitutional right.
Yeah.
And that hearing has to be heard. I'm going from rote here, but I think the hearing has to take place within 15 days or as soon as practicable thereafter. When's that gonna be? I saw during COVID you couldn't get a jury trial for 14 months.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all a shell game. I mean, and it doesn't affect them because they're the elites. They're isolated up there. They have their big gates and their armed security and their metal detectors. They're not in Sherman County. They're not in Union County. They're not in Harney County. And so they don't know what the average citizen that lives in reality, which all of us do, has to go through every day to be able to defend ourselves and protect our families.
Yeah.
And so that's where, we're not the problem here. We're the solution, and we just need to be left alone, and so, that's where I'm frustrated, and Alicia's here, and she talked about this, talking about the sue the AG, but she's on her way out. She's not running for reelection. I mean, she has nothing to lose at this point. She can be okay burning $3 million of taxpayer funds and losing in court, and it's not going to affect her legacy at all because she did what she was supposed to do, and she was supposed to get this thing implemented, and it's this gentleman right here that and the judge in Tyler that prevented that. So
Yeah, and then as far as suing AG Rosenblum, I mean, they've got plausible deniability. They've got a reason why they think it would have been implemented. I mean, there's a reason why they went into court, into federal court on, I think it was December. When was it? They said that it would be implemented within the next 8 days, and everybody, including the judge, laughed.
yeah, that was funny. That was in
Yeah,
federal court.
I mean,
that was hilarious.
They have a reason why they think it would be. I took the deposition of some Oregon State police office people who were implementing the program. And do you want to know how they were going to store your guys' background checks and permit numbers and all that? You want to know how that was going to take place?
A Word file.
On an Excel spreadsheet, Derek.
I read all that. Yep.
On an Excel spreadsheet was how they were going to store thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of our. There's no way that's going to go wrong.
No.
There's no way things are going to get lost. It was an accident. We tried our hardest. It wasn't going to work. But they can say that they had a plan in place to deny that they were intentionally infringing on your rights. And really quick, before you get to the AG replacement question, Derek, shout out to Sheriff Cody Bowen, who's also running for re-election out there in Union County.
I saw that. Yeah.
Grade A witness. My secret favorite part of the trial was getting the words every last one of them out of Sheriff Bowen when talking about the number of rounds he fired in self-defense when he was surrounded by wolves. So that was one of those questions where I was going, please say all of them in my head because I didn't know the answer to the question. And sure enough, that was the answer. So shout out to Sheriff Bowen. We got a vote.
Yeah. And that's the thing is as it gets closer. So there's a couple people running for AG. And so one of them, he's the president of the Senate. His name escapes me. He's a rabid liberal Democrat. So he's a bad choice, but we have Will Lathrop, which I need to get a hold of him and have him here so we can talk to the people. I hear that he's a really good, constitutional conservative. And so, we got to do whatever we can to help, get somebody in that position that will support our rights. And so that would be a big victory for us to kind of help that would help alleviate some of the pressure that we're facing right now if we had a good person in that position. And so we really should we got to vote. And that's going to be from today or actually Monday, because we have the Iowa caucus. Like my big thing is I'm going to be using my platform to educate, make sure, motivate people to get out there to vote. I know we feel disenfranchised, but how can we not be, if we're disenfranchised because we don't show up, that's different. You know what I mean? And we quit on ourselves. And so,
So
we've got to do better.
Oregon Republicans didn't vote last election. So many of them.
160,000.
Yep. It was enough to change the result in ballot measure 114 for sure. It was enough to change the governor for sure. I mean, we could have had a different governor this whole time. I haven't talked to Will Lathrop, and I've messaged him a couple times. I know him from a long ways back, and everything I remember about him is good. So I'm gonna try to talk to him again at some point. But we have we have a lot of stuff in common. So I like him. I like that he's running.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. I love this. His mom's in the group, and she shares stuff every once in a while. I just really would like to speak with him before I start kind of putting endorsements in here. You know what I mean? Because I want to know what he's about, and I kind of want to co-sign, I guess. And so, Chris Madura, you're not helping. So, so
I can't. I can only see the monkey flash.
Well, so sorry, my only claim to fame. So, but I had to sell it, and that's how I sold it.
Yeah.
You wanted to check my text messages and my email, with you. That's how I proved that we were not lying.
All those learning moments.
Yes, we both learned.
Yeah.
So burner phones next time. So hopefully there won't be a next time. So anyways,
I definitely, I mean, I would love to be in Judge Raschio's courtroom again. I've been in a lot of judges' courtrooms and ones that have ruled for me and against me. So it has nothing to do with him ruling for me. I just found him a amazingly good judge. Like the way he wouldn't let he wouldn't let a bad argument slide, and he did it to me a couple times where he's like, drill down on that. That's not enough, and kind of just pushed me a little. He was blunt. He was entertaining.
I really enjoyed his demeanor. Yes. I really like his command presence. I really like the way he was about his constituents. That we had that emergency hearing with the young child, where he took a break and said, "Hey, I've," like that was a man, and seeing him just walk, you know what I mean? The security that were there pulling all those deputies off the street in that whole county, that was not for his sake. That was because of the other side. All of us were fine. We would have been safe.
I solemnly swear I did not request security.
No, it was not us.
In fact, the only time I used it during trial, I didn't. The lawyers, we were allowed a different way in. The only time I used it was at the preliminary injunction hearing, because whenever I go to court in any other county, I have to take off my boots. And I don't like having to take off my boots and get them back on and my belt and all that. So I thought, if I could get around that, having to do that would be nice. And then I realized what the security consisted of, and I went, oh no, I'm walking through the front door. So yeah, that was a good time. But does anybody have any questions about attorney's fees or what money was spent on? I can tell everybody we were frugal as we could be. That's our firm. We.
So here's a good question about funding.
Yeah, is there a funding goal? So the funding goal right now is $100,000. My goal was to raise 50 of that from the folks who benefited. You, me, Derek, everybody in Oregon, and 50% from potential kind of organizations. I don't want to name any because I don't want to put them in the hot seat, but we have talked to organizations about kicking in some funding. The reason for the goal, again, is it's higher than I would normally estimate for an appeal. And the reason for it is because we anticipate shenanigans. We anticipate, potentially an accelerated briefing schedule. Well, why does that make stuff cost more? Make stuff cost more because if it's accelerated, it might be Tyler and I both working on it at the same time to try to comply with the speed that has to happen. We could have to contend with amicus briefs and kind of responding to those arguments. Don't be surprised if I know I can't remember if it's Everytown or Lift Every Voice or both. They are both fundraising right now for legal fees. What's that for?
So that's where we're at right now. And so I just checked. Okay. So we're at $3,444 out of the 50,000, which you're hoping to get matched by another org. But it's still early, but
multiple.
Yeah.
I know that there's a lot of the organizations that do this stuff routinely are supporting the federal cases, and they should. The federal cases are enormously important, and I don't want to take away from them by talking. We won, they did not. I think that they're going to a court that, if their case dies in the Ninth Circuit, that's going to be tough. If it makes it to the Oregon Supreme Court, if the Oregon Supreme Court bundles these together, we finally, Derek, super important, we have our circuit split, where I think the Fourth Circuit ruled against permit to purchase, and the Ninth Circuit, or a different circuit, has ruled in favor of them. Circuit splits are one of those ways that stuff gets taken up by the U.S. Supreme Court, so that's huge. That was one thing, talking to a constitutional law scholar from back in Montana that I know, he just kept saying, we don't have a circuit split. Here we go. What's the timeline? The timeline's as soon as possible, but really, if
like last week.
Yeah. If we could get to, I don't know how Give Send Go works, where if we can take it out ahead of time or anything like that. But if we're looking at hopefully the next 3 months, the big problem with things like, because there's not going to be a whole lot the next 3 months unless they do shenanigans, which could happen. But if we're just waiting for the transcript to get generated and the record to be created, they have to write twice. I only have to write once. So they file an appeal, and then I respond to it, and then they file a reply. Is typical. We might respond again. Sometimes that's allowed. You have to ask permission.
Which they don't do.
Right.
The judge loves that.
But that's kind of the timeline we're looking at. The big reason for the press is because these things, just the momentum dies behind them. It sucked to hear it, but somebody told me that you'd have better luck fundraising if you lost, and I went, that shouldn't be how it is. The goal here is not to raise funds or make money or any of that. It has to happen, but this idea of, let's be the opposition, let's always be fighting and never getting ahead, that's just, it's a defeatist attitude, and I don't like it. Where was I going? Another potential cost that we've built in is sometimes Court of Appeals is typically a 3-judge panel. And this case might be heard en banc from the get-go. That can happen. But oftentimes you'll have a hearing before the 3 judges and then they'll issue a ruling, and then one party or the other will ask for review en banc. So that's where all the Court of Appeals judges get in on it and make sure they all agree, or enough of them agree. So that could happen, and that's added cost. Our goal ultimately is to fall way below the 100,000, and then let's talk about where the money goes. Let's say we win attorney's fees, or let's say we raise more than we thought. Those funds will be donated to the gun rights organizations that support the lawsuit. That's where we're at right now. That's what Tyler and I have discussed. It's not our money for sure, so we know that. These kind of crowdfunding litigation is kind of a new phenomenon in the law, and the law moves really slowly. But I spoke with the ethics hotline about where does the money go in that case, and they said it's arguably the clients, but definitely not the lawyers. And I said, okay, well, are you allowed to donate it? And they told me yes. And so it would be going back into other fights. So if it's gun organization A donates money, they would then get more back. And the reason for that is it's kind of impossible to track hundreds, thousands of donors to get everybody a check back. So, yeah, I'm happy to answer questions about that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to take too much more of your time. I know you've got family. I put a couple links in here. These are the links you can donate directly. This stuff stays with this case. This stays in Oregon. This goes to benefit you, your neighbors. Like literally, if all of us did $5 to $10, $20. We had a guy yesterday that put in $1,000 because he believes in you and believes in this cause. And we will never ever win in this state unless we change our mindset. We go on the offensive. We take care of the house by making sure the people that are doing the work get the support that they need. And that same thing is we're never going to win. We're never going to change the state unless we show up and vote. And I'm passionate about it because all of this stuff affects me directly, right? Because of the time that I give for free, right? And but we're all in this together, and I believe in us, and I believe in our gun owners, and that's why I'm part of this. Is like I want to win. I'm sick of losing, and this is our opportunity to win.
I'm not sick of winning, Derek. I think it was who was that? I think it was Scott Springer texted me and said, "Are you sick of winning yet?" I said, "No, I'll be sick of winning one win after this thing's officially dead. Then I'll say I'm tired of winning." But it's so important that we protect Article 1, Section 27. The Second Amendment is hugely important, hugely, but we as Oregonians have the ability to change our constitution, just us. We're not diluted by whatever's happening in California and whatever's happening in New York. We're not diluted by that. We have 6 electoral votes, something like that. We don't have a lot. We do have a lot of control over what happens in this state, and I think we need to stand up for it.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, there's a question from Alicia, like it's like I guess that'd be more like how the sausage is made type question. So
normally the ballpark I give clients, just as a rough estimate, is 1 hour of research and writing per page. Okay, so go back and look at all the pages we filed, and I was ahead of schedule on that. on appeal, it's going to be less research, more writing. That's one of the reasons why appeals are, at least in my experience, cheaper than litigation, um, because we've already litigated the case. So a lot of my time in the for trial preparation was spent finding witnesses. Just kind of backstory here. Don't mind sharing it, but I was really trying to find a World War II history expert to talk about some of the World War II stuff I was bringing in, and I couldn't find one, so I ended up doing the motion to take judicial notice, and it worked. But stuff like that, having historians. Um, uh, Basically, I found every witness in the case. Some people were recommended to me, but we had to interview them and talk to them and run questions past them, find out if they agreed with certain statements that we expected to prove, and that's a lot of the preparation. That doesn't happen on appeal, but some of the shenanigans, we'll say, that could result in research if they try to. I mean, at this point, I think I've got my mandamus chops down because they moved twice. And I'm working on another mandamus proceeding right now for President Donald John Trump. So that's, he's getting. He's has a mandamus case. So 3 mandamus cases, I've got a pretty good idea what the standard is. So it shouldn't be a ton of research. It'll mainly be writing. The expensive part of appeals is oftentimes in a case like this going through the record. So, for example, I had to do that for the ORCP 62 hearing. For example, I knew, I think I called you, Derek. I knew that Professor DeLay said that a magazine was an integral part of the firearm.
Yep, I celebrated when I heard that.
But I got to go find where he said that. So, I knew that Professor Taveskov said a certain thing. And what was hard is I only had the audio record. At least now we'll have transcripts, and you can, Control F search the transcript. But it's the way my memory works, the way a lot of people's memory works, is it's not exact quotes, it's the gist. So I remembered Professor Taveskov saying something about how important firearms were for daily life in rural Oregon. But I don't remember exactly what he said, so we got to go find it and cite it in the brief. So that's a lot of what makes appeals expensive.
Okay. Well, we're at an hour, over an hour. I want to give people their time. I need to eat. It's been a busy day. I'm sure you want to see your wife. You've been going. So, other than that, I appreciate you taking the time to kind of talk to us, and, thanks for still being in this fight and doing what you're doing on our behalf. It really means a lot. And whatever I can do to kind of help, keep you going, I'm going to do, because you're my guy in the fight. And we just need to all come together, come around this attorney and Tyler, and make sure that it doesn't take a lot. Like, you know what I mean?
I should have done this pitch earlier, but if you can't donate, shares are free. Share my post in any gun group you're a part of, in the state, not in the state. Share it on podcasts, in the comments, or on the chat if there's any you watch like that. Our case got mentioned on one of my favorite podcasts, which was pretty cool moment for me.
There's going to be some more coming up pretty soon. I found that out today, so we're going to get some help. So that'd be cool.
So looking forward to that. So shares are free. Anything to get the buzz around this case, because outside the state, money's welcome. No one's gonna turn that down. But
maybe a letter to the editor would work.
Letters to the editor are free. All this stuff is ways you can help. aside from donating money, time, I appreciate time. Not much I can have people helping with the actual appeal, but talking to your whoever your local gun store, whoever your local FFL is, try to have them put up a flyer. And then if the difference between you donating and not donating is not getting an answer to a question, please message me on my Facebook, on the Tony Civil Attorney Facebook. Derek shared some of my posts before. It shouldn't be hard to find. I'm happy to answer questions to the ability I can. I do have duties as a lawyer that I have to observe, so there have been questions that I've been unable to answer completely, but I'm going to be as open and honest as the rules of professional conduct allow. So I'm happy to answer questions and tell people where their money's going, and I appreciate it, everybody.
Okay. Well, yeah, and I appreciate everybody tuning in. Thanks for the comments. I mean, that's what fuels this thing. Likes, comments, shares. That's what gets all this stuff out, and just know that we're all in this together. And so we're either going to celebrate and win together or not. And so that's the only thing I can stress is just don't forget about the lawsuits. That's just really, really important. So
prayers are free too.
Say what?
Prayers are free too.
Prayers are always free. Yes, absolutely. So, all right. Well, awesome. I'm gonna let you get off here. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much.
See you there.
Yeah, see you. All right, guys. I'm gonna wrap this up, and we will talk to you guys soon. Thank you for tuning in. Remember, check out Minuteman Ammo. Out of Washington. He's doing a lot of fighting up there for us. So we're all in this together. So I'll talk to you in the next couple days when I have more. So thanks for tuning in. Have a good night.